It is episode 10 of the Nights On, Lights Off podcast. It is hard to believe we've done this now, or we're doing this for our 10th time. And this is Will Cladley from the Game Escape channel, joined as always by JayShy from ShinMegamiTalks, or as he is known now, Aki Florida, which I think is an awesome name. Jay, how you doing tonight?
Doing all right. Aki Florida was dubbed by you. I can't even take, credibility for that one. That one was yours. You've given me that moniker.
Well, I thought it was just fitting after you released that video. You showed us your game room, you showed us your slice of Tokyo at home in Florida, and to me it just worked.
Yeah. I thought I've been building that room for a while now. It's been a dream project of mine for past 10 years, maybe more.
I've been having visions of my own upgraded game room. I think I told you I've been house hunting here in the Northeast New York metro area, and
Yeah.
I have been so close to so many houses, and we have been outbid on every single house.
Yeah, it's
It
tough.
is
It's tough trying to get a house right now.
it's crazy, and this one that I really wanted had basically in the basement, it was just an epic man cave. It was like a whole other house. It had a kitchen, it had like a living room, and I mean, it wasn't super classy, but it looked like an old dorm room that I could have just made my own.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, "Oh, we're gonna get this. This is the one." And someone beat us.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But, you
Don't worry.
know,
That means there's something better coming along the line.
such is life. But yeah, so it's episode 10, and we haven't really talked since the winter holidays.
Mhm.
And there's been some big news, and I think the first news story that we need to hit is the Switch 2. And
Yep.
I'm assuming we both saw that trailer.
hmm
I know I have some thoughts, but I want to get your take. I was wondering what you thought about it.
Um. So when I initially saw it, I had really, really high hopes. Um, because of I had I guess because I've seen Nintendo grow for years, from Nintendo era, from the Super Nintendo. You've seen so much different forms of growth from them. And then when I saw the Switch 2, I wasn't very impressed. I wasn't blown away at all. I wasn't really like, "Oh, I gotta have that." I didn't this is the first time in my life where a Nintendo console came out and I just wasn't impressed at all. It just felt like it it felt like a patch update for a console I already have. That's that, that
That's
that's what it felt like.
yeah, that's actually a great way to put it. I mean, I was completely underwhelmed. And I gathered that they apparently Nintendo was upset. People had already essentially leaked, if not the video, then all of the kind of the design information,
Yeah.
which I don't think is a bad thing. I mean, I never felt that all of these leaks and online rumors and speculation, to me, it kind of helped sell the console.
Mhm.
But nothing that I saw really impressed me. If anything, they could have just listed some more kind of spec details on it. What is this thing going to do? What is its capabilities? It just it just felt kind of bland.
Yeah, it and I know a lot of people are very excited for this thing. And I'm not saying that the console sucks. I don't think that's what we're saying. We're not saying it sucks. It just seemed very underwhelming compared to what we're used to. So like I said, when we went from NES, we went to Super NES. When Super NES, it went to the Nintendo 64, Nintendo 64 to GameCube. There was always this like weird, innovative way of pitching your console to new, I guess, to gamers basically. Even with like the Nintendo GameCube, the leap next was what, the Nintendo Wii. So it was always like, even in the design, it was different. And with this one, this was the first time where I just found it weird that everybody is like super excited about this. Like, oh my god, this is like revolutionary. I was like, but I just couldn't help but feel like I feel like we all already have this though. Like we basically already have this exact same thing that everybody is excited for. But I will say this: I'm hesitant about getting one, and the only reason why I'm hesitant about getting one is because I don't know if you remember, but the first thing in the chat that I said was I don't know why, but I'm getting some weird Wii. I'm thinking about the Wii U for some reason, and I I don't know why. And then I thought about it, and I said, well, um, the thing that I'm worried about when it comes to the Switch 2 is that people are going to use this Switch 2 just to play Switch games. It's gonna fall into that vein of what a lot of people have problems with when it comes to the PS5. Like a lot of people say the PS5 is the best way to play your PS4 games. And I hope it doesn't go down that path at all. Like um I can honestly see in my head that the Switch 2's library is just gonna have like updated Nintendo games, but then you're gonna have other developers just make Switch games for the Switch 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is gonna happen. When the game launches or when the system launches, I mean, usually, right, you don't have a ton of games, and I think the development environment now, as opposed to 2017, is even more difficult, it's more expensive. So
Yeah.
there was that tweet, and I don't kn I assume this is not real, but it was from that guy Furukawa at Nintendo, and he was basically like, there will be no launch games with the Switch 2. I suggest you play Tears of the Kingdom again.
Wow. Did he
And
really say that?
well, I think it was doctored. I think it was a joke.
Okay.
Um, but I think it's kind of gets close to the truth. I think there may be one game or two Nintendo games released, and maybe it's going to be obviously it's going to be probably the Mario Kart that we saw in the trailer, and then everyone is saying it's could be Metroid Prime 4, I guess it is.
Okay.
So, I mean, and those are 2 games that I think people will have a good time with for a long time, but as someone and I've said this many times on the podcast, I am someone who's excited who wants to buy it day 1 for the backwards compatibility if there is a boost mode or an upgrade mode.
Right. I would definitely agree. Like the Switch 2 is definitely going to be the it definitely makes the original Switch kind of obsolete, right? Because everybody is going to play their Switch 1 and Switch 2 games on the Switch 2. So I think if you're just looking just to upgrade to have that compatibility, I would definitely say get the Switch 2. But I'm for me, I have to pay a little bit more attention. Um, not pay a little bit more attention. I'm going to pay more attention right now on the back burner only because I'm fine with my Switch 1. I haven't really seen anything that makes me want to get the Switch 2. Maybe if there is some type of upgrade in terms of fidelity and the way it runs, maybe I might get a Switch 2. But I personally I don't like the way I think they should have changed the color scheme of the Switch 2 just to make it feel different, but they already kind of did that with the OLED. And oh, that's what I said. I said that the Switch 2 kind of reminds me of the OLED 2. That's what it felt. That's what it
Yeah.
felt like. It feels like an OLED update. So I don't know. I would have changed more about the Switch. And the only reason why I say that is because I wonder if there's going to be a lot of parents who don't have the money for this thing that um you know they're just gonna see this thing and go, oh, my kid already has that. You know, he doesn't need another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that is true. Although Nintendo always manages, with the exception of the Wii U, to carve out a market or better. The one thing about the backwards compatibility, though, that was interesting is they announced it in the trailer. They had it as kind of like a little text in the final slide, but they said not all games will be compatible.
Yeah, that
And
was
some
kind of
people
worrisome. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, some people are reading that as, oh, you can't use maybe Nintendo Labo games,
Yeah.
which I never played, or I think there's an IR sensor or something on the original Switch that
Hmm.
the Switch 2 is not going to have. So I hope it's that. But
Yeah, same.
I
Yeah.
I think they've got to do something. I mean, to me, the Switch is a brilliant system that has untapped potential because you've been playing it on such an old piece of hardware. If you can get original Switch software to run, as I've always said, 60 frames per second, forget about upscaling and all of that. Just get it to 60 frames per second. It would be, to me, a game changer.
Yeah. I definitely agree. But I think that hardcore Nintendo fans are gonna buy this thing. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Like hardcore Nintendo fans, they're definitely gonna buy this thing. But if you're trying to pitch this thing to, let's say, the group that didn't buy a Nintendo Switch on release date, and then they got it, 4 years, 5 years down the road. If you're trying to pitch to them, I feel like the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be a very hard sell. Um, and a lot because I hate to admit it, but optics play a very heavy role in video game consoles. Like people like to feel like they're buying the hot new thing, that looks different. Now, the only way, I guess not the only way, but the only thing I would honestly say that kind of like defeats something that I just said is with cell phones. Because Apple releases, a new iPhone like what, every 9 months, and people still buy it, and it's the same thing
yeah.
they've had before. But I think when it comes to video game consoles, I think it's a bit different. Like people always want the new techie thing that goes on top of their, media centers that they can show to like people. Especially if you're trying to sell to, um, especially if you're trying to sell to, not Nintendo fans. I think this thing is going to have somewhat of an uphill battle. I know it's going to sell immediately to regular Nintendo fans, like they're going to buy it. But for people who already have a Switch, I think it's going to be a hard sell. Because I can kind of feel it, and I'm very hesitant about buying one. But I know eventually I'm going to get one. I'm just probably not going to get one on release. Because I want to see what they want to do.
What were your thoughts about? It seemed like they were teasing a mouse functionality. You could take
I
off
saw
the
that.
yeah. Like what are you thinking on that?
If it is a mouse idea, I think that's a great idea, to be honest with you. Because Nintendo Switch already in Japan, and I was gonna buy one too, and I never did it. In Japan, they have a keyboard where you take the two Joy Cons and you slide them on both sides of the keyboard. Um, I can kind of see it being compatible with that, where you can play first-person shooters using the Joy-Con as a mouse. I can see that. That'll be cool, but is it enough? Because I can see people playing Splatoon on that for sure, but like no one's gonna buy Call of Duty to play on their Nintendo Switch. Like I find that really hard to see in my head, only because the Nintendo Switch, it has the frame rate issues. You need very good frame rates when you're playing first person shooters or any type of shooter. But if someone wants to use their Joy-Con as a mouse to play like Breath of the Wild, I'll have to see that in action. But I did hear that people were like super excited about a new Mario Paint.
Yes, everyone was talking about that.
A lot of people were like, "Yeah, Mario Paint," and I was like, "Did they announce that?" Like, I I don't even think I remember playing Mario Paint ever. Um,
I I had a cousin who had it, and I remember they turned it on, and it didn't click for me. I'm like, well, wait a minute, I don't want to play with a mouse. This is Nintendo. This is not school. And yeah, maybe I missed the charm. But one of the things I could see them doing is if let's say you're playing this in portable mode, you sit it on a desk, and one Joy-Con is your mouse, and the other you're holding in Joy-Con mode, and you're sort of moving through the world of Metroid for Prime. You're using the mouse to
right,
aim and shoot, and you're using the thumbstick to kind of
guide
move around
yourself
the
around.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like, I think that's a something that, to my knowledge, has never been done. on a home console. I mean, there has been mouse support,
Mhm.
obviously. I think with PlayStation 4 or 5, Xbox Series X, and all of that, but to have a peripheral essentially come with the system and play first-person shooters with a quasi mouse keyboard-esque layout, I think will be cool.
Yeah, I agree. That would be cool. Personally, I feel like if Nintendo really wants the Switch 2 to sell, um, and it, I'm predicting here, if it does have an uphill battle that it's battling, and it can't outsell the Switch 2, I mean the Switch 1, I think they're gonna have to go the route that the Nintendo GameCube did, where it started releasing different versions of it, like different colors. Because I feel like the Switch kind of missed out on that. Like I noticed like whenever I was looking for a different kind of Switch console, there was only um like four or five. I think you could only count them on like one hand. How many different versions of the Switch there were? There was the regular one, and then you had the OLED white, and then you had the Animal Crossing one, the Zelda one, and I think that's it. I think. I've never seen like other Switches with cool designs and such, and I think that the Switch 2 is going to need some of that. Instead of just giving us different color Joy Cons. Like that's cool, but it's not as cool as having a cool Switch. You know,
Yeah.
like I think having a cool design on your Switch too would definitely help sales for sure. Slap Pikachu on one of those things, people would
Oh,
buy it
yeah.
up like crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. My Switch, and I just happened this was the one I happened to pick up, was the red one, with
There's
the
a
red
red
jo
one. See, I didn't know there
Yeah,
was a red one.
and, I mean, the whole thing isn't red, but the Joy-Cons are red, and that
Oh man,
when
that's
I
cool.
when I checked the prices on that, that seems to have really held its value over
Wow,
the
I
years.
didn't even know a red one existed, because I have the regular one and I have the Animal Crossing one with the the I don't know what you call them, like the cool colors, the green and that kind of aqua color.
Yes.
I have that one, and I thought those were cool. I like the OLED too. The OLED has a little nice, cool, sleek. It kind of has that new modern look for game
Yes.
consoles, which I think works. But red, that's a different one. I have to look into that one. That sounds
Yeah, it's
cool.
called I'm looking at it, and it's called the Mario Red Joy-Con bundle, and honestly, the only reason why I got it was the day that I went to Walmart and I made an impulse purchase, it was the only one they had.
Nice.
So I'm like, "Eh, alright,
You
whatever,
and
I'll get
you
it."
ended up with something cool.
Yes. So
But
speaking of well, go ahead, go ahead.
no, no, I was gonna say, but I do hope that the Switch 2 does pretty well, because I feel like Nintendo needs to break that cycle that everybody keeps predicting. Like I don't have Twitter, but I've seen people send it to me like on another chat, where people are always saying like whenever after, I think it was after Nintendo 64, um Nintendo has this weird habit of making a good console, and then immediately after that a console that bombs, and then immediately
Yes.
after that they make a console that's great again, and then after that it bombs again. And I hope that this one kind of breaks that cycle.
That is very true. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We also have to see how it is affected, like, what the price is,
Yeah,
and is it gonna be affected
definitely.
by the
The
tariffs?
tariffs, yeah.
And I just did a whole video on that, and someone commented, I forget who, but they pointed out that they have this law, at least as far as, like, the kinda importing that we do. I think it's called the de minimis exception, and as if you import things for yourself under $800, the tariffs don't apply,
Okay.
which I was like, "Oh, great." But for China, at least what I read this week, they are eliminating that exception.
Oh, that's horrible.
So, yeah,
Oh,
so, like,
man.
if you order from Play Asia, you're you're kinda screwed.
Oh,
And,
man.
obviously, if the Switch was the Switch this law wouldn't have applied to the Switch 2, but I was trying to think of, like, how are they going to price it? And I've heard people say $399. I
I've
think
heard that
that's
too. I've heard that
in the
too.
age of tariffs, I think that's a little low. So I
I
was
think
saying,
so
like,
too.
we can give a prediction here. What do you think?
Personally, I think
Yeah.
there's probably going to be two versions. I think, and by say versions, I mean I think there's going to be one with just a Switch, and I think there's going to be like a Switch with a game. So I think it's going to be 450 or 470, and then 500 for the one with the game. That's what I think. I don't think they're gonna. I don't think it's gonna break 6. But
Yeah,
if it does, oh my god.
I think for whatever reason 500, 499 is in my mind. And yet I think that's a tough price for Nintendo. I think
500.
yeah, 500. I think Nintendo is they have that reputation of always being a little bit lower than the competition. I don't know what a PS4 like regular, sorry, PS5 regular goes for. I think it's 500.
Yeah, wasn't it
Or
500? Well, yeah. Well, now they got the Pro out.
yeah,
Isn't the Pro like $800?
yeah. And then the Xbox One X, I wonder what that, like, what is that? I see that for, I don't know, right around 5, sometimes a little lower, sometimes a little higher. So
Mm.
I don't know that Nintendo can be right at that price point, but yeah, maybe like 450, 459.99, something like that.
If it's lower than $500, I will be flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
picking 500 because that feels high, but it feels like everybody is high right now. Um, but I will say this: you know, it's the one thing I was really hoping for that I don't think we're gonna get, but I was really hoping for is a new cartridge design. I was really hoping for that. Like even if the consoles still look the same, I was really hoping for maybe they went a different route than the SD card that they did. Like they went bigger again, like a little slightly bigger, just to not make it look like a Switch One game. But
yeah,
I just feel like we're just gonna get more Switch. Like we're gonna get the same exact cases as before. It's gonna come on the exact same card chip thing. Um, I just hope they change the color of the cases so we can differentiate them on a shelf. Change the color instead of the red, you make it something else. But I was really hoping for something of a change instead of just OLED Pro.
yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like, what is the color scheme going to be? Because as I look at my collection now, I mean, I've got a wall of red.
Yeah, same.
Are they going to continue with that, or are they going to just adopt a different color so you can easily see, okay, that's my Switch 2 stuff.
Only time will
But
tell, man.
yeah, and probably Nintendo doesn't care about that. They're like,
Well, yeah,
who
no,
has
I mean
two, 300 different
that
games?
new guy
So
who's in charge, man, he's like all business, zero fun.
yeah,
Because I spoke about this in an old video that I made. I was like, I remember when I would turn on my Wii U, I would love to just play around in the menus because it had
yeah,
like, it just made you feel like you were in Nintendo. But like
yes,
when you turn on like the Switch, you just feel like static screen. It's really boring.
yeah.
Even the game cases are boring. Like it's just boring. It just doesn't feel Nintendo-ish to me. But
Yeah, I kinda like the red, though. I think the red
I
is a
hate
nice
it.
differentiate. Really?
I hate the red only because well, I will say this. I wouldn't mind the red if the font on the sides were different. Like if for every game, I wish it had that kind of PlayStation 2 font stuff on the sides. Like you know how every game has their logo on the side.
Yeah,
I wish that Switch did that instead of just giving us the static word on the
yeah.
sides. I don't mind the red too much, but
But what the Switch does do, and I just this just hit me, actually, it hit me when I was, game hunting in Japan,
Mhm.
is every Switch game, as far as I know, has the publisher logo below the title.
Yeah.
And I think not every console did that. Like, I was looking at my PS5, PS4, some did, some didn't, but it seems to be standardized on the Switch, and I
Oh
actually
no,
think,
no,
like,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, even when you're looking for stuff in your own collection, you're like, "Oh, yeah, there's my Atlas stuff." It's a good
Mhm.
way to organize.
No, I actually organize my bookshelf for Nintendo Switch by genre. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I just feel like it's just easier that way. I do alphabetize it, but I alphabetize it by genre. So like I have a section that's JRPGs, then I have a section that's like adventure and then miscellaneous stuff, horror
Okay.
and retro like games. So like if I'm looking for something super retro, it's easy to find. It's in a section that that's just super quick.
Yeah,
So
that's smart. That's
yeah,
smart.
because if you just try to alphabetize, you're just gonna be standing there, especially if you buy too much games. I actually think that Switch collectors are crazy. I think we buy too many games.
We do. We do. It's to the point now where I actually have to dig through certain stacks to get to other games,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's
it's
why I
getting
need a
bad.
new space. I just need a new
Yeah,
space. Um,
or you can organize by genre.
yes. Well, I
Try
don't see.
try it. Trust me, try it.
I don't have the space to like line them all up. I need
Okay.
to sort of double stack at this point,
Ah,
and it's getting time to upgrade.
I'm
But
almost there. I'm almost there.
But speaking of, I don't know if you'd call this an upgrade. In a certain sense, it is an upgrade
Hmm.
to our gaming enjoyment, but it is also kind of like a jump into the past because we talked about, I think in the last episode, the new rabbit hole we were jumping down,
Oh
and that
yeah,
was new Genesis releases.
yeah.
And since that time, we have jumped down that rabbit hole, or in your case, you've gone down even further. You're about to touch the Earth's
we
crust.
we jumped and eventually we just started tumbling and we've continued to
Yes,
do so. It's
and I've
been a hell of
it's
a ride.
cool. Yeah. So, I mean, we've been playing so many of these games,
Hmm.
and I think we should shout out. We both got the Retron 3 HD, right? You
Yeah,
picked that up as well.
I did. I picked that up.
I was saying, well, this is a great little system. I love it. Even I like it even better than the what was it, the Retron 5 that I had, or the
Mhm.
higher level one that had all the support and that was emulated. Like this is a clone console, but it works beautifully with these games. So if you
Yeah,
want to play retro Genesis, SNES, NES, and the Japanese variants, this is I think is the way to go. And it was reasonably cheap. I mean, when we picked it up, it was what, 80 bucks,
it
maybe
was about
70,
80
80
bucks.
bucks.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
picked it up before the holidays ended.
yeah.
It was about 80 bucks. I think one of my friends recently looked it up. I think it's up to 100 now. I guess a lot of people were buying it. But yeah, I have to admit this is exactly what I needed. Um, and I think one of the reasons why I love it so much is that the controllers feel so authentic. It's insane. They feel so good in your hands. I
They do.
enjoy I enjoy playing it so much that I don't remember the last time I actually turned on any of my other systems.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about the controllers. When I initially got it, I couldn't find my original SNES and Genesis controllers,
Mhm.
and it was really irritating me. I'm like, "Oh god, I don't wanna play with this cheap garbage." But I couldn't find them anywhere, so I did, and I'm like, "You know what? These aren't bad.
No.
These feel
Yep.
really, really good."
They do. They feel super original. They feel like OEM controllers. I was shocked at how good they felt. I actually took out one of my Genesis controllers just to like press it next to the Retron controller, just to compare, and it feels the same. It feels the same. It feels so good. I've been playing this thing like crazy. It's so good. I'm actually I I fell down the rabbit hole so hard. I ended up buying games that I played when I was that I've seen other people play as a kid, but I was too young at the time because they never passed me the controller. Oh man, I've been buying up all kinds of stuff.
Well, I figured we would go through some of this original batch of games that we imported, like, around the holidays.
Yeah, we can go through that.
And, I just kinda give our quick impressions. The
Mhm.
game that I started and that it's actually sadly the only game from this batch that I finished was El Viento, which was
Okay.
a re-release, but I think you got that one as well.
Yeah, I did. I picked that one up too.
What did you think of El Viento?
it's it's hard to grasp your head around for the first time you're playing it. But I think once you get your first two game over screens, you kind of understand what you're supposed to do. Like, you kind of have to play that game like Strider. You can't you
Yeah.
can't play it like any other game other than Strider. You have to continuously keep moving while just hoping your boomerang hits everything in front of you. Um, I know that the problem with El Viento is that the first level feels like a fifth level.
Yes.
It feels too big, open worldish because you have to go through doors, you have to go through apartment complexes, you have to hop roofs just to get to this one boss. And I was like, this is insane. And then all of the other levels play like just regular levels. I guess that they just tried to wow you with the first level, which it's beautiful and it's great. But I got to a point in the game where I just kind of got stuck, and I kind of put the game on a shelf. But I do enjoy the game once I got the hang of it. How about you? How'd you like it?
So I had played it. I'm not going to say when it originally came out, but I had played it maybe 10 years ago, and I did not like it. And this just happened to be the first game that came in. So I kind of forced myself through it and I was getting very frustrated, but I was also enjoying just playing the Genesis again, just having that experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So I tried as best I could. I mean, I didn't play it with any kind of great skill, but I tried to brute force my way through it. And when I finished it, I was like, I still don't like this. But I guess if you had handed that to me and whenever it came out, 1990, 91, I probably would have been impressed just by the sprite size and
Yeah,
the fact
that
that it felt significantly like it was a tough NES game on steroids.
hmm
So probably would have liked it, but I had it piped in through the RetroTink 4K and I set the sort of the pixel grid through that and scan lines and everything. And I was just having a very retro experience. So would I recommend this game? Would I say because these games are expensive to import.
yeah.
I I can't say that I would recommend it, but it was an
If somebody
enjoyable
wa- if
experience.
somebody wants to shelf collect it, I would recommend it.
Okay.
It has a pretty cool cover. That's about it.
Yes,
Um, but
that is true.
to want to really enjoy this game, you have to enjoy that. I would say it has like a weird early 90s New York aesthetic in the first level. If you like that kind of stuff, it's perfect for you. But I would just say just play Strider. Uh, just play that because this one also has like a weird shimmer effect too. I remember like when as you're walking, there's like this weird shimmer scrolling thing that happens. But yeah, I couldn't recommend this game either. It's really hard to recommend.
So the yeah, so we're on the same
But
page on that.
I, I will say this: you did recommend me a game. I was skeptical about it, but when I bought it and I got my hands on it, I was like, this game is fantastic, and it's great. And it was Ultra Core.
Well, yeah, that one of all the ones that I imported, to me that was just a sublime experience. That is the one to get.
It is so good. That
I
game is explosively good.
when I was playing it, I said to myself, if this had came, because it was a canceled game, right? What company
Yeah.
developed this? You would give me the
It was.
backstory.
I think it was Dice. Was it Dice?
Was it Dice, or I thought, or was it Psygnosis?
No, it was a company that's still doing stuff today. I think it was
Really?
Dice. I think so. Um, I might be wrong, but I think it was them. And they they got to like they were almost done with the game, but by the time they were done, we had already moved into what, the fifth generation. It was like PlayStation had came out, Ridge Racer was making waves, Crash Bandicoot was a thing. So it was like this game is never going to sell. So they just scrapped it. And then some company was like, "Yeah, we're going to hire those old developers to come back and finish the game." And my god, is this game so good. It's
Yeah,
so
you were
good.
right. It is Dice. It is
It's Dice,
Dice.
right? Yeah, it's the guys who did Battlefield, which is crazy. Oh my god,
I
it's so good.
I'm trying to see how we can describe it. It
It plays like a Terminator game, but on
yeah,
acid and way better. It plays like a way
yes.
better Terminator game. And but it has like, I don't even know what the story is to this game, but it doesn't matter because it's so good.
Yeah, you're right. Like the Terminator back in the 16-bit era or that Blackthorn game, like it has that
Yeah.
aesthetic. It even has like the shooting feels. Oh man, I'm blanking on this. It has been a long day. What is the
The
famous?
shooting to me, the shooting kind of reminds me of like Cybernator, or like Assault Suit Leonos almost. It almost reminds me of
Yeah,
that, except you don't move like a mech. You move like a man. Like you move like a dude running around shooting stuff. But it has like this weird, it has this cool gameplay mechanic which you would think should be very difficult to wrap your head around, but it's so easy. It feels so good. Like when you're holding the shoot button, you can move back and forth, but you're shooting forward. And as you
yes,
rotate the D-pad, you can arc the shot like, 8 different directions.
yeah,
And and as you let go of the shooting, you can turn around and do all of that other stuff. But it's so good. It's so good.
yeah. Would you say that the game I was thinking of was, and it's not quite, this is even perhaps more complex, but like a Gunstar Heroes, where at least the way your arm moves and you can angle the shots is
Well,
that a fair comparison?
well, with Gunstar Heroes had two different shot modes. There was one where you stood in place and shot, and then it had the run and gun mode.
Yeah,
This one, it feels like it's both of those modes in one, but it depends on how you shoot. So if you hold the attack button down, you shoot in place, but you can move back and forth and arc your shot. And if
yes,
you tap it, you can kind of like, shoot back and forth and all around, and it just feels good when it's in your hand. Like you feel like you're in heavy control of the character. And if you die, it's your fault. Like everything
yes.
feels like it's your fault if you die. I stayed up all night one night playing that game. It was so damn good.
It has actually gotten into like one of my personal S tier of games, and I know that's the
Yeah.
case when I pace myself with it. Like I spent a night or two when I got it, and I got to this like another password screen, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take a picture of this. I don't want to finish this.
Yeah.
I want to save a little bit. Like I want
Yeah.
to,
It does. Yes.
I don't want this to be over.
Yeah.
And incidentally, it was the kind of game where if again, if and I like to think about how I would have received these games back when I was a kid, back when it was that SNES Genesis war.
Hmm.
And if you had handed me this game back then, I would have been so thrilled. I would have said, "See all you SNES bastards, take a look at Ultra Core. You
Yeah.
don't have this." Uh,
I'm pretty sure my friends would have thought I died in my room because I would not have come out of my room for months on end trying to beat Ultra Core.
yeah,
It's just one of those games. It's so good. Like out of all of the games that I've recently purchased on the Genesis over the past, I would say what, month and a half, it's in my top 3. I would say it's number 2. It's
okay.
definitely my number 2 for sure. Man, it's so good though.
Well, I'll give you one that's not in my top 1 or 2.
Which one?
And I think you like this game. I think it's called Seiken Xiao Mei or something.
That is not in my top 2. That is
Yeah,
not.
yeah. No, no, but I think you actually, when I complained about it,
I did
you
like it though.
yeah.
It plays like kung fu. But A bit better. That's the one with the girl and you
Yeah,
fight the. Yeah, it plays like kung fu. It's not bad once you figure it out. I know you hated it.
yeah. I
You
just was
hated it.
like, I got burned on this. Like, this doesn't feel like a finished product. This doesn't feel. This feels like a game that you would have gotten back in the day in Hong Kong from a street vendor, and you'd bring it back to
Yeah,
the States. Hey, try this out, guys, and it was just a
I
level
like
below.
I liked it. Well, I didn't like it at first, but once I figured out what it was trying to be, I was just like, it's okay, it's fine. I can figure this out. It's only frustrating if you try to play it like any other game than it's trying to be except Kung Fu. Like if you try to play that game like a Double Dragon, which I tried to do, or you try to play it like any other beat 'em up, it's gonna be a frustrating time. But if you play it like I'm trying to there's another game on the NES that a friend of mine showed me a long time ago. I think it's called Phantom Fighter. If you try to play it like that, it's not great, but it's not bad either. It's just okay.
All right. Well, maybe I'll go back to it. I don't know. I
But
just
I will say that did you play the one game that I was telling you? I think is fantastic. The one with
which
the
one was
giant
that?
mech, Mad Stalker.
Yes,
I think
Mad Stalker.
Mad Stalker is my number one. I love
Really?
that game. I love that game. It's simple. It's super simplistic, but I'm not gonna lie. I'm a sucker for good techno music, and it has really
Yes.
cool '90s like cyberpunk techno. So I'll give anything that has that a one, a one spot, and it has that, and I love it. It's so good. It's I was thinking about it when I was playing the game, and I think that's probably why I like it. It plays almost like a modern, not a modern, a retro version of Slave Zero X. It
Yes,
it,
exactly.
it plays like a fighter, but it wants to be a brawler adventure game.
Yeah.
It's unique. It's very simple to get your head around. I like the fact that like you have unlimited continues, so it's not too frustrating. But it's a fun game. It's I mean it's '90s cyberpunk. I mean you
Yeah.
can't get any better than that. That's like what Ghost in a Shell, right? Kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, it has that vibe. I like the Slave Zero X comparison.
Hmm.
It's funny. I was a little torn. Like, I'm a little torn on giving that game a recommendation. On the one hand, the sprite work is great, the music is
Yeah,
great. The gameplay is I don't it's
simplistic.
yeah, it's simplistic.
It's
I mean,
super simple.
the bosses, like, once you figure out the pattern, you can
Yeah,
really kinda
cheese them.
take them
Yeah,
down. But I still enjoyed it. Like, I'm not gonna complain though it was too simple or too
right.
easy. I wouldn't call it easy. I just think you need to learn the patterns of the level, and so it's a very retro experience in that sense, but it's expensive. It's one of the more expensive in this, like, initial wave of these Columbus Circle games,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
at least import Genesis games from Japan.
yeah.
And
I
so if
think.
somebody it's gonna pay, like, if it's $120 or $150,
Mhm.
is it worth that? Whereas I said
No.
Ultra Core would be.
Um, the most I would probably pay for Ultra Core
120?
is uh I didn't pay that much for Ultra Core. I actually found a copy for like $50. I was lucky. But I know
No,
Ultra
Ultra Core
Core's
is cheap.
well now it sells I only seen copies for $90 and up.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah. At least that's the last time I saw it was like $90. But Mad Stalker has been like $100 plus. I think I paid about 80 for mine. Um would I pay that? Yes. I like Mad Stalker. I think I will admit I will pay more for the PlayStation version. Only because I just think the music just sounds better.
Okay.
But um but the would I pay $100 for Mad Stalker? Probably not. I think the most I'd pay is 85. 85, maybe $80. But
Yeah,
man, I
and I that was fair. That's what I
I
got it for.
see. I like Matt Stalker, so I feel like I'm dissing an old friend. I really, really enjoy that game. But I'm a sucker for 90s cyberpunk, so I that's probably the rose-tinted glasses talking.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to, with the audience, try to be fair, and I don't want to talk up a game where people are going
Right.
to be like, "Oh, these guys said it was the most amazing game ever, and I paid $150, and it was not
Yeah,
what I
it
was
was
thinking."
crap.
Yeah, but I did enjoy the night that I had with it. The other one that I think is up there as far as this initial wave is the Grey Lancer, the
Yo,
30th anniversary Grey Lancer. I think that's
Gla
a very solid game.
yeah, Glade
Or
Lancer
oh, sorry,
is
Gley Lancer,
yeah,
not Grey
Glade.
Lancer.
The two games the 3 games that's up there on the Columbus Circle is what Glade Lancer, Cotton, and Mad Stalker. Those are the top 3 expensive games. But Cotton is a throwaway game. We'll just say that.
Yes.
I don't like Cotton Panorama. I don't like that game. But Glade Lancer is fantastic. I stayed up one night just reminiscing about Gradius, and I decided to pop that in instead. And I will say I like Glade Lancer more than I like Gradius. Um, it just has it has unique level design that makes you want to keep playing it, and it's one of those horizontal shmups where you feel like even though this game is hard and you're dying a lot, you feel like you can beat the game.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's cheating you. It just feels like you just haven't learned the pattern yet. And I think the farthest I've made it so far is probably like level 5 or 4. Um, there's a level in the game where you actually have to do speed management, and you have
Ugh,
to
I
do
hate that one.
yeah, you have to do like speed management, and you have to get the right weapons at the right time to like navigate through like these mazes. I made it to that part of the game, and I was just like, this game is fantastic. This game is great. I love Glade Lancer. I see why it's expensive because it's
Yeah.
really good. It has a lot of replay value, and it's really fun to play.
And you know what I appreciate about Gley Lancer and Ultra Core El Viento? They do have, to varying degrees, cheat menus. And,
Yeah.
and I think when you're paying this much money, it's good to have it. Like Gley Lancer had one where you could actually change the bullet pattern, like your initial, how you
Yeah.
have to kind of like select the bullet pattern, where you
Yeah.
could change it on the fly and you could really experiment, like what is the best
What
loadout for this
what's suitable
particular.
for your playstyle
Yeah,
is like the one that I've messed around with all of the different playstyles, but the one playstyle that I think is really good, but I know a lot of people probably hate it, is like when you move backwards, it points your options forward. So you
yeah,
shoot things in front of you, and then there's an option to reverse that. So when you move forward, it shoots things behind you. I I love that kind of experimentation, man. Even the whole, oh, you can just have your options rotate around you if you want, or shoot in a fixed position. It's up to you, or they follow you. I love that stuff, man. It's so good.
yeah. And I really appreciate that. It's like, obviously you can choose one at the outset and play through and die and
Mhm.
then experiment, but time is precious, at least at the stage of life that I'm
Yeah,
at and you're approaching. So it was kind
yeah,
of nice to just, okay, let me try this other bullet pattern.
yeah.
So I give him credit for that. You talked about Cotton Panorama. Yeah, I didn't like that. I could see why it was impressive
At the time, yeah.
at the time. Yeah, like if I had popped that into the Genesis in 1995, I would have been very, very happy. Now I could just honestly take it or leave it. There was the one, I think it's called Forest Warden or something like that,
hmm
or Warden Forest,
Oh, you're talking about isn't it Wardener or something like that? Is
or
that what you're talking?
Wardener. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that one. That's the only one I'm missing. But I did have it on the Evercade at the time, and I played that game. It's fine. It's a fun little platformer.
Yeah, I kind of, it gave me good. I don't want to say it.
It gives you cheap
What
ghouls and ghosts.
Ghouls and Ghosts.
It gives
Yeah,
you
I
some
think
cheap ghouls
that's
and ghost vibes.
yes, I think that's fair. And then the last one, I think the last one that I got would have been Stone Protectors, which I'll admit I did not play all that much. I think I
I
just
mean,
gave it good 40 minutes or so, and then I
I gave
was
it a
tired on
good.
that.
I gave it a good half an hour.
Okay.
It plays like a cheap version of Battletoads,
Yes.
is what it feels like. It's not
But not as
great.
satisfying.
Yeah, it's not great, but it feels like one of those games that's bad enough where you want to grab a friend and do some couch garbage with, and you're just playing this game. That's like it. It feels like a typical game where you and your buddy, if this was the '90s or the late '80s, you went to you went to the video store, you rented it, you bought pizza, you played this, you hated it, but you played it anyway.
Yes.
It feels like that. Maybe
I
I should
would
probably do that. That's probably the only way I'm probably gonna get through Stone Protectors. I have to call up a buddy of mine, or we can figure out a way how to plug it up to the computer or the internet, play it all over a stream or something, and order some pizza.
yes. Well, yeah, that is I think exactly the genre.
Yeah, it's not good.
So
It's not good.
now
It's a bad beat 'em up.
have you gotten anything else that I'm not
Of
aware of? I
course,
think that was the
of course, I did.
all right.
I've
Hit
bought
us up.
so
What'd you
much.
get?
Okay, so I'm not gonna tell you all. I'm not gonna tell you how they all play because a lot of people know
Okay.
these. But I'll just tell you what I bought. So I did buy a couple of originals, Genesis originals. I bought Techno Cop. I bought Terminator because I've had that when I was a kid. I bought Altered Beast. I got Forgotten Worlds, and I got Ghouls and Ghosts. I only got those games because those are games that like I kind of grew up with, and I played those as a kid. Now all of the import stuff. I got my hands on a copy of Soldice.
Oh
Apparently,
wow.
yeah, I got my hands on a copy of that. Japan is supposed to be getting a re-release, but I think it was my Retrobit actually re-released it here in the States. So I looked it up and someone on eBay was selling it for a super cheap price. So I bought a copy on there. So I bought a copy of Soldice. I got my hands on a copy of Xenocrisis.
Oh,
Um,
that's a good one. That's a very
that's
good
a
one.
yeah. I got my hands on a copy, a physical Genesis copy of Xenocrisis. It plays weird on the Genesis. It's a bit tough to recommend because you have to go in and change the controls a bit because the default controls that they give you is really weird. It's like when you move the character in a certain direction, they shoot instead of you holding a certain button. So it's kind of hard to maneuver. Um, so like how do I explain this? So when you move up, the character shoots up, and if you move left or right, they shoot that way. You can't like hold a certain button and then move in the opposite direction. You have to go in and make some configurations in order for that to work.
Okay.
That was weird to play, but I got my hands on that. I got my hands on a game called Heavy Unit. This was a really, really hard game to find from Japan. It's a shmup where you play as like an airplane, but it transforms into a mech. I forget that the '90s was like super into that because of
Yes.
Robotech. Mechs, airplanes turning into mechs and all that stuff, and you basically shoot aliens. That's basically it. But it has some pretty cool designs. It's a pretty easy game though. It's a pretty easy shmup. I bought that. I got my hands on a copy of Aster Bros and Demons of Asterborg. These are two
Okay.
games that are on the Nintendo Switch, but they made Genesis versions because it was originally made for the Sega Genesis. What was it, like 3 years ago? And they just ported it to the Switch. So I ended up buying, instead of buying it on a Switch, I bought it on a Genesis. I just thought it would be a lot cooler. I bought that. I bought a game that's reminiscent to Strider. It's called Tanzer. That one's really cool. I got my hands on a copy of Life on Mars. These are a lot of these games are games that are also on the Evercade, but I wanted the Genesis versions of them. Uh, so I got Life on Mars. I got Cursed Night, Life on Earth, and I got Metal Dragon, and I got my hands on a copy of Mega Turrican Director's Cut.
Oh, that is sweet.
Do you have that Mega Turrican?
I do not.
Okay. I
Tur Turrican kicked my ass when I was a kid,
Let
but
me
I
tell
I got
you.
I got it on the turbo graphics. I
Yeah.
could not get that. So
Turrican is a difficult game for a game that doesn't seem all that difficult. That game is hard.
really,
Um Mega Turrican on the Genesis is because there's two different versions when if you buy it, because I got mine from Strictly Limited and it took forever. Uh it took like a month to get to me.
N-
But
wait, only a month?
yeah, it took only like a month. Because
I'm
I bought it at the end of December and I didn't get it until probably about a month and a half. I got it at the end of January.
I'm waiting on a game from them for about 2 years.
Is it the Lycurious game? What is it? Lycurious?
It's what is that? Parasol Stars, I think.
Oh, Parasol Stars. Yeah, we're never getting that ever.
Yeah.
But Mega Turrican is a tough game, but it's a game that doesn't play like it should be tough. It
Yes.
just plays like a regular run and gun, run of the mill kind of game, but it is really hard. It took me forever to figure out how to beat the first level. It is a
Yeah.
maze. It is a giant maze. But I will say this, even though it comes off frustrating and it's tough, it's kind of fun to play once you figure it out.
And it
It's
has I was gonna say it has one of the best soundtracks. I think all
it does.
the Turrican series, the Chris Hulsbeck guy,
Yeah, it does.
just, amazing stuff, and it feels like it was now this guy's, German, I think, but
Yeah.
he it's almost like he listened to all of the video game music coming out of Japan and then distilled it into this pristine, super catchy set of tunes.
Yeah. It was my first time actually playing a Turrican game, so when I turned up my stereo that I have hooked up to the Retron, I was like, "Oh man, this is great. This is good stuff right here." All of those Sega games are have really good music though. I
Yeah.
notice. Like they're all really really good. Oh, you know what? I should probably mention this one too. I recently also bought an NES game. While I was purchasing the Genesis games, I bought a shmup. It's called. Let me see if I can see this. Guardian S Squeak. I think it is. It's on the NES. You can get it from a company called Broke Studios in France. But it is a
Okay.
really really cool shmup. It is. It's on. You can get it on NES as an NES cartridge with a box, and it comes with its colorful manual, all that stuff. Or you can get it for the Famicom. It's your choice. But this game kind of plays like Heavy Unit, but way better. A different take on like shmups, and I really want to talk about this because it's really cool. Usually, when you play a shmup, if you get shot, you die. Like that's it. Your ship blows up and it's a wrap. In this game, your ship has a life bar, and the thing is that you have the option to change your ship into a robot, and it has a different type of shooting mechanic. The thing that makes it interesting is that it recharges its health depending on which form you take. So, like, let's say if you're low on health and you're the ship, if you transform into the robot, like it increases your health region by like 4 seconds. And if you convert back into the ship, it's like 10 second. It's like a 10-second wait instead. But I thought them adding a even more cool mechanic is if you're in a level that has like a Gradius level where there's a ceiling and a ground, if you transform into the robot, you can ride on the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you change into the ship, if you touch any of the surfaces, you blow up. Like it has like all of these cool mechanics for a Nintendo game. And as a matter of fact, let me see if I can grab it really quick and
It looks pretty impressive.
tell
I'm
you
looking
the
at it
name.
here. 50
Because
euros. Not terrible.
I think a lot of people should look into it. It's called Changeable Guardian Estique. That's what it's called. And I think people should check this out. If you can if they're still selling this game, grab a copy. It's really cool. It's on the NES.
Yeah, no, they are. It's like I said, 50 euros.
Yeah.
So what is that? Maybe 60 some
50 it
dollars?
was about no, it was about $70 because
Okay, the shipping and
it's
everything.
yeah, it's like 50. and then you have to pay yeah, because the shipping was like $15-12, but you know you got the taxes too. So,
All right.
but yeah, I definitely recommend this game. It's really fun. The music is great too. The visuals look good. It has that night that you know NES feel, that 1988, 89 look.
Oh,
Definitely cool.
they have a lot of NES games.
Yeah. So this company, they make games for NES and Genesis, right? But what they do is they also like if you're into creating your own homebrew games, they sell the chips that you can upload your games to with the cartridge seals. So you can buy empty chips
Oh
from
wow,
them. Yeah, if you're making your own game.
interesting.
Yeah. Like it's amazing how much like when I fell down this rabbit hole, it's amazing how much I started to find out that people are still making games for retro consoles.
Now, did you import any of their Genesis stuff? Because it looks like they've got 3 Genesis games.
Yeah, I think I got Cursed Knight from them.
Okay, how's
I
that?
bought that. I played that. Cursed Knight is fun. It's really good. They have a new one that just got kickstarted called Cursed Legacy, but you can't buy that one yet because they're gonna let all of the Kickstarter people get their hands on it first. But as soon as it goes up, Cursed Legacy looks amazing. It looks like what's that Genesis game made by Treasure that the Gunstar Hero guys that we didn't get in America?
Ooh,
Alien Soldier. It
yes.
looks like Alien Soldier, but with like Judge Dredd. That's what it looks like.
Huh,
It looks really cool.
interesting.
Yeah, but they make a
Well,
lot of games. I'm gonna see if I can get some more of their stuff.
when we had initially planned this episode out for mid-January, I was like, we should probably talk about the 2025 releases we're excited about,
Hmm.
and just based on our like Discord conversations, there are a lot of Mega Drive games I think that would be on that list for both of us.
Yeah,
And just to
definitely.
kind of continue down the rabbit hole, I think the one that it's fair to say we're most excited about is probably that P47-2
There's
game that's
There's three.
coming
There,
out.
I would say that there's three games that I
Okay.
think you and I are both excited for. There's P47 MD, which is the game that was canceled in the '90s, and then who was making that game? Was that Sunsoft? No,
Jalico?
Jailco. It was
Yeah.
Jailco. It was Jailco. It's a shmup that looks like UN Squadron. Um, that game looks great. I can't wait. I already have it pre-ordered. It's coming. It's on its way. The other game is the one made by Yuzo Koshiro, Earthion. That
Earthion.
game,
Yep, that is on the
that
list.
that game looks. I don't know how they were able to pull off a lot of those visuals on the Genesis because it looks like it should not run on the Genesis at all. It's so good. That one, and then
Who is
there's
selling? Oh, Limited Run is selling it,
yeah,
right?
Limited Run is selling that one. Man, I'm not gonna lie, I have to go through Limited Run to get some of these retro games. So it sucks, but I want some of this retro stuff. The other game I would say is ZPF.
ZPF, yep, that was on the
That
list.
one looks fantastic. I have that pre-ordered as well. So those are my top three. I'm trying to think is if there's another one that
I mean, there were some non-Genesis things that you let us know about in the Discord. One of them, which I pre-ordered, was what is it called? Venus Vacation Prism Dead or Alive.
Oh God, I forgot I pre-ordered that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
you were
Venus
like, get
Prism, yeah,
this.
yeah. Just grab it because I'm pretty sure they're gonna censor the hell out of this, or they're gonna try and delay this at some way or cancel it. So just pre-order it so you have your copy. But yeah, that was the dating sim, the Dead or Alive dating sim. That just looks so cheesy. I had to have it.
That's interesting. I didn't realize it was a dating sim.
Yeah, it's a
I
dating
when you
sim.
said pre-order, I was like, "Oh, okay, he knows what he's talking about. This will never come out over here." I thought it was one of those volleyball games.
No, it's a game where you take the Dead or Alive girls, like you pick the girl and you go on a date. I just thought that that was hilarious. So I was like,
Ah,
I said to everyone, I was like, grab this quick. You're never gonna see this again. And I think like at some point, I think that the game actually went up in price. Like out of because everyone is anticipating that this game is either going to get censored or it's going to not show up. Or when it does come out, it's going to be limited quantities. But it's a dating sim.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm not a huge dating sim person, but
I never played a dating sim before.
well, I
I
played the Tokimeki Memorial, which is kind of like the classic,
uh-huh.
absolute, Japanese original dating sim, 1994 on the PC
Mhm.
engine, and of course, I had just had to kind of fight my way through it. I don't think it's ever been released in English, but that kind of has a place in video game history. But aside from that, I've never really tried one.
Me neither. I've never played one ever. Like I own a couple of dating sims, but I never played them because I just feel like I just don't have the time. Like I'm always gonna play something else.
Yeah, they're a little maybe because I think I've said that for visual novels and stuff like that, I find them relaxing.
Yeah.
So maybe it could put me to sleep, but
Yeah.
we'll we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. You also talked about Assault Suit Valken from
Oh
Super
yeah.
Deluxe.
Yep. I pre-ordered that. I almost canceled that, but I was like, you know what? Let me just grab this because I I don't want to get I don't want to have to pay for the other version, so I'll just get it. But yeah, Assault Suit Vulcan, man. I mean, you can't pass up Assault Suit games. I feel like whenever an Assault Suit game comes out, you grab it.
Well, and I just as much as we hate limited run, the Super Deluxe,
Yeah,
which is their Japanese subsidiary, has some just really nice boxes.
they do. They
I
really
don't know
do.
what it
All of
is. It's just the best packaging.
I have Super Deluxe. I have a Super Deluxe section in my glass cabinet now because their boxes are
Really?
just so good. Yeah, they're too good. They're too good. I got Espagaluda in there. I have Dodonpachi, Resurrection. I got Musihema Sama Futari. What else? I got what is it? Clock Tower came out with a Super Deluxe. I had to. Super Deluxe.
Wow.
I would say the best LEs I've seen so far is from Super Deluxe and City Connection. Those two companies make really good LEs in Japan. I when they come out with an LE, I buy it.
Wow. And they have some good like unpacking simulator. Can I buy this?
There's an unpacking simulator.
Yeah, it's a very good game. I have the US version
That's
and
hilarious.
it comes in like a cardboard box, like a moving box. It has that kind
Mhm.
of aesthetic, but it's one of the more unique games that I've played. Kind of
Okay.
like a relaxing, you're going through different stages of your life, moving from
That
your
game. Is that what it's called?
yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen people play that. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. I
I
know
think it's
exactly what you're talking about.
it's very I actually want to play it with my wife
That's the one where you
because
move into the house and you have to move the boxes. Is
yeah,
that
well,
what it
like you start with your college or your home bedroom as a kid, then you go to
Right.
college, and
Okay.
then you get your first job. You're moving through these different places, and each dwelling is a little bit more complicated. Figuring out where to put all your stuff.
Hmm.
I I I like creative attempts like that.
Yeah.
So that all right, I'm gonna be on this super deluxe website tonight. Try to get in before they throw tariffs at Japan. Anyway,
Okay.
uh, and then I noticed just recently Steam Hearts, an advanced
Yep. Advanced VG.
VG fighting game. Yeah, so I
I
like
just
Steam
got one.
Hearts. I played it
I have Steam Hearts on PC Engine.
even on PC. Okay, I have it on the Saturn,
Yeah.
and
That is
I
an adult shmup.
yes, but I thought it was clever. Like you're playing as the bad guys, and
Yeah.
just great animation. It's just a very, very unique game, and I've never played advanced VG.
I never played Advanced VG either, but a lot of people talk about it in such great pedigree that I
Really?
know of it. So, but I never played it.
It looks kind of like what is that? Burning 120%, that
Oh, it's a
fighting game.
fighter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So interesting stuff there. And then I found a couple of like ones that might be a little bit of outside of our wheelhouse, but might be interesting nonetheless. The Neptunia Riders versus Dogus, which I
Yeah, I
actually have
saw
the
that.
Japanese version. It's like a motorcycle. I don't know if it's a racing game or like a kind of a twisted metal thing, but with anime characters. I think that
I've
that has potential.
I used to be a really huge Neptunia fan, but man, you need a lot of time to beat those games. And the last one I beat, I had so many hours in this game. I was like, I don't think I can do this again. It's kind of like Disgaea for me. Like Disgaea just takes too long.
I've never played a Neptunia game.
Never? Oh, you should play at
Never.
least one.
I
Play
have
one.
I think I have 1 or 2 floating around somewhere, but I feel like this one from a collecting standpoint, this is a really odd one to get localized.
Yeah.
It's I when I got it on the Switch in Japan, I was just like, "Oh, this looks unique." Like, it's a good import because it doesn't seem like there's that much of a language barrier
Hmm.
since it's a vehicular combat game, but I was like, "Oh, they're never gonna release this in the States," but they
Uh-huh.
are, so and then we got a couple remasters, Suikoden 1 and 2 and the Lunar remaster. Are those things that are on your radar?
Not so much Suikoden, only because I have Suikoden digitally and I never finished it.
Same
Um,
here.
so I don't want it physically just so I can just not finish it. But Lunar, I was very tempted to get Lunar because I've never played it, but I was hoping that they would have made one of those boxes like how it came out originally on the PlayStation 1. You know, that
Yes.
box set. If they would have made like some sort of box set like that, I would have instantly purchased it. But because I don't see anything like that, it doesn't give me like a real incentive to want to buy it.
Yeah, I know they're coming out with a physical release,
Yeah.
and I have not seen the details of it. I think that it was gonna be on our friends over at, Limited Run, but yeah, it needed that box,
Yeah,
definitely.
and it needs that box. I know for a lot of other people it probably doesn't, but the that cool box with I don't know what came in that box because I never opened it, but it would have just made a bit more of an incentive for me to want to purchase it because it's a nostalgic thing for me.
Man, I'm looking at it now. There's just something about Lunar. We may have talked about this before, but it's just one of those games that has stuck with me over the years. I don't know what it is. They're very simple RPGs.
Yeah.
They're actually quite laid back, even for the time.
Hmm.
I thought, but they just have a charm and a bright cheeriness to their graphics. I'm like I'm looking at the screenshots, like I want to get into it right now,
Yeah. It
but
does look good. It does.
I have to have the physical. I can't get the download. Just can't do it. And then the other one, and I don't know to what degree I can stand by this pick as a game I'm looking forward to, but it was the new Fantasy Life game. Fantasy? Did you play
Fantasy
the
life.
Fantasy Life? It was a 3DS game that I picked up, and it was kind of interesting. Like it basically took it. I'm not going to say it's an open world, but it was an RPG world that was you were fairly free to explore, and it had a very complex job system. So you would pick any job in this village and you would go out and you would play the game, and how you interacted with the game would change based
Mhm.
on the job you picked. Were you a fisherman? Were you a
Oh, okay.
lumberjack? And I just thought it was a very clever premise, but I never really finished it, and they're coming out with another one. So
Oh,
be curious to see what that's all about. And I
that's
think
interesting.
the one on the 3DS was somewhat rare. Like it didn't really catch on. I think it was a was it a level 5 game or a Nintendo? release?
You got me.
See, oh, level 5. Yeah, so I always liked level 5.
Level 5 has been, yeah, they were good for a while.
Yeah.
They even made, they have a game that a lot of people want to see come to the States. Um we're kind of like in a mech. It's on the Switch. That was like the last game they did. You're like in this weird mech. It has like a weird cartoony look to it though. I forgot what it's called though. Yeah, I
Oh,
don't but they
is
do
it?
have a like Giga something. I forget.
It's not. Did it have a W in the title? 'Cause I think.
Yes.
What was that called?
Let's see. I'm looking at level
I
5
know
games right now.
I bought it on the.
It was on the it's on the Switch. I know that for sure.
It's
It's
gonna
like
bother me, but
Mega something W. I remember it's something like that.
yes, yeah,
Or Giga something or something like that.
Megaton Musashi. Is that
Thank
it?
you. Megaten Musashi. Yes.
I read the most glowing review of this on I think it was like
Yeah. People
rpgsite.net, and
people said it was the best thing they've ever played from them.
yes, and you know what? I never played it. I
It
have it.
has a physical in Japan, but it has no English.
It's installed and ready to go on my PC, and I've never played it.
Yeah.
And I'm clicking through it here. It actually looks so good.
Yeah.
I may play it tomorrow. I
Yeah,
may
let me
actually
know
do.
cuz a lot of
Yeah.
people are like looking forward to that. I know like a lot of the games that I'm looking forward to on the Switch like comes out I think in June for me. Like I know I have the Sonic Wings reunion.
Okay.
Pre-ordered that. I pre-ordered. I have that pre-ordered. I have, and when I heard that there was another Shikondo coming out, I had to pre-order it because I like Shikondo.
I just
Um,
played the original for the first time last
it's
week.
great. It's a cool Chinese. I think it's Chinese, like kind of demon bullet soul game. It's a really cool game. I like shmups that have grazing in it. Like when you have to graze bullets in order to like boost like multipliers. I like that kind of stuff. Um, and now that there's like a follow up to the first game, I was like, yeah, I gotta get this. Is it a follow up or is it or is it just an extra game? Because I see new characters, but well, it doesn't matter
Huh.
because I'm buying it anyway. This would be the third time I had gotten this game if this is just like a what do you call it? If it's just an update. This would be the third time I bought this game. I like Shikondo.
Okay. I have to play more of it. I was kind of like in the mood for something quick, and I was playing it for a little bit when I got home from work last week or the week before, and I just kind of fell asleep, which shows you it's not that it's a bad game. I was just very tired.
Oh, and there's a new Cotton coming out, so I pre-ordered that too.
Man, you are amazing, my friend.
Yeah, I
You
pre-ordered
I never
that.
even heard of these.
Yeah,
I didn't know that there was.
Yeah, there's Cotton Reboot High Tension. That one's coming out in Japan, so I was like, oh god, another Cotton Reboot version. All right, sign me up.
I don't know. I don't know what to feel about Cotton. I
Cotton
got
Reboot
the
is good. I would give it that. Cotton Reboot is good.
okay.
All the other ones are not that great.
I got the Cotton Rainbow Cotton, I think, box set from
Yeah.
Japan,
Mhm.
and I was playing. That's more of like it's almost like that Genzo Skydrift game
Yeah.
in a way. And it wasn't bad, and I was playing it, I'm like, "Okay, I could see the retro appeal, like, this is a modern take on a retro formula," but it also just didn't do it for me. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was.
I would definitely tell people like if you want to play a Cotton game, play Cotton Reboot. Cotton Reboot is great. It plays like how do I explain that? How do I explain this? It plays like um if Cotton was a Kai Katana, it kind of reminds me of that almost. In terms of visuals and how the bullets shoot. It reminds me of
Interesting.
that. If you like a Kai Katana, you'll definitely like um Cotton Reboot.
Well, Now I have to go buy those.
Yeah, I got a couple
But
of games coming out from Japan uh in the next couple of months.
yeah, I mean, I've got some shipments recently, and I was kind of like, "Oh, this is gonna be my last hurrah." I probably should have bought more, but I did get that Capcom versus what was that? SVC
Oh,
Chaos.
yeah, I got that too. Uh
I didn't play it like well, I have played the game before, but I
I've
know
never played the game
you weren't
before.
too crazy. You see, I don't think you were crazy about it, right? You
I
wanted to just
wasn't.
get rid of it.
I never played the game before, and then I was gonna get rid of it. It was still sealed, and I was like, you know what? Just pop it in. You might enjoy this. I popped it in. Did I enjoy it? It's not that I enjoyed it or I didn't enjoy it. It just felt like a throwaway game for me.
Okay.
It's a game that I have, like, but I don't see my friends coming over to my place and saying, "Oh man, pop in that SVC chaos." Like, I never see that happening ever.
I discovered it in grad school, and so it kind of takes me back to that time. Of course, I was playing it on, I think it was MAME or something.
So
And
you're
then
playing. You're gonna probably play it out of nostalgic purposes.
yes,
Yeah.
and I like the one. It wasn't SVC Chaos, but it was the one on the Dreamcast, which was in that series, like the Capcom versus SNK, but made by
Well,
SNK. And I'm
this
blanking on the title
no.
of this.
Well, so there was a Capcom versus SNK, which is the one that Millennium Fight, which is the one that everybody
Oh,
loves.
I love that one. Yes,
Yeah, and then you have
but there was a
SVC
one before
Chaos.
that.
Was there?
Yes, there was one on the Dreamcast.
I don't remember one being on a Dreamcast. I do remember Neo Geo Battle Coliseum. I remember that, but I don't remember another SNK Capcom game.
This is Capcom versus SNK.
I do not remember.
Released in 2000. It is $225 on eBay.
Jesus God.
And I have the Dreamcast one might be a little cheaper. Capcom versus SNK. The Dreamcast is like in the $80 range. And it was I just love this game only because it has one of my favorite levels, and it's like you're outside a Japanese game center, and then you're fighting your way into it, and so you could kind of move
Oh,
through the stage.
yeah. Oh, wait. So you're talking about Capcom versus SNK 1. Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
And I
you
felt like that
I usually forget that one exists because everybody loves number 2 so much.
yes. Well, number 2, the Millennium Fight, that's coming out on the what is it? The
Yeah.
Capcom Fighting
Collection.
Collection
Yeah,
2.
number 2. Yeah, I
Which
pre-ordered
I
that
am looking
yesterday.
forward to. I actually got the other 2 in there, the Capcom Fighting Collection 1, and then for Christmas, I got the Marvel versus Capcom Fighting Collection,
Mhm.
and I was a little skeptical. I'm like, "Ah, these are just retread and releases, nothing special," but they're well curated and they play beautifully.
Yeah, they do.
And they have some of the best scanline features that I've seen, like, a game produce.
Wait, it has oh man, I gotta go in and and test those out because I usually love
Yeah.
those.
And I found myself, like, in the early to mid part of January, just, like, coming home and tired and just putting these in and just kind of chilling out with them. It was like
Mhm.
a night with old friends, but the scanline stuff was very surprising, like,
I
how
gotta test
good
that.
they got it. And, you know, if you have a 4K TV now granted, I'm running the, Switch through my RetroTink 4K, which I'm sure makes it look even a little bit better.
Mhm.
But, uh, yeah, just, really enjoyed those. So, I am thinking, how much more time do you have this evening?
Let's see. I got
10
about 15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay, so I was gonna say, I do have a We Got Your Number episode 4, but that
Okay.
will have to wait, until we have a little bit more time because I have quite the list here,
Oh
and
god.
I've also built, like, a bracket
Oh
this
my
time, so,
god.
like And I figured, what we'll do is like while we're going through it, I'll record the bracket in real time and as we get to a winner. But that's going to take a little bit. So I figured
Okay.
if you only have 15 minutes, we can end on some viewer questions.
Yeah, let's do that.
And got a couple of questions here from Apollyon from the Discord, a longtime listener, great contributor. And he was asking about, this is your 10th episode. You should do something with 10. And he gave us kind of a bunch of prompts. And I think perhaps the most interesting one was, where was your collection 10 years ago, and where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
Wow, that's a good question. Do you want to? Would you like to answer that one first?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. So 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
February of 2015, and
2015. Let's
I
see.
didn't, I said, oh, I could probably just like look back at my YouTube channel and see what I was posting, but I didn't do that because I didn't think that would be fair. So here's where I think I was. I think 10 years ago, my big purchase, almost around this time, was I was going to complete all of the Capcom fighters on the Saturn.
Oh, nice.
All of, yeah, so with the yellow labels, all the Capcom fighters. And I was close. I was missing two games. I was missing was it called Pocket Fighter or Gem Fighter? Or or both? Those are two separate games, right?
Right.
So I was missing one or the other. I can't quite remember. I'm going to say Pocket Fighter, and then I was missing Street Fighter 03, and of course we know that's the heavy hitter on the
Mm.
Saturn. And 10 years ago, that game was almost $200.
Wow.
So I pulled the trigger, and I was like, you know what? I had this trip coming up, and it's kind of like a stressful work related trip. And I'm like, you know what? I need to get my mind off of this trip. It's coming up in March, so I am going to purchase these games and play them and forget about this trip.
Mm.
And that's when I completed the collection, and that Street Fighter 03 is still prominently displayed on my shelf. And you would think it would be more expensive today, but I'm not sure that it is. Which I think is probably, it's like, oh man, I got slammed on that. Like today, it's about $300
Mm.
as I look at it here in Game Eye. So that was kind of my big goal. Yeah, I think that would probably be about it. And I think the only other thing I was doing at that point was starting to look into sort of import adjacent stuff,
Mm.
like getting a couple Japan only art books, collecting some 80s anime that I had missed. So that's the only thing I could think of about what I was doing 10 years ago. Where do I see my collection going in 10 years? Well, I would definitely like to have more space to display it all. So that's my immediate goal, but I'm hoping to have that
So
accomplished
that
within a
so
decade.
so the house, the game room in the
Yeah,
house. Yeah.
yeah, within a decade. Think I can make it. Um, and maybe if I were to have kids, like playing with the kids and seeing them enjoy it,
Right.
I think would be something nice in 10 years. But I don't have any particular goals. Like, if anything, I'd like to see my Switch collection that I've spent too much money on now be worth a lot more 10 years from now. So, what about you?
Um. Well, what I had to do is I actually had to look at my old my channel and go back 10 years. And ten
See,
years
that's
ago,
cheating. That's cheating. I could have done that too.
10 years ago, I was heavy into collecting Shin Megami Tensei stuff.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and I think at this time, this was kind of around the time when I actually started importing. Now that I'm like looking through it, um, I was importing everything: toys, Shin Megami Tensei figurines, and all kinds of stuff. But I remember 10 years ago, I really wanted a large Shin Megami Tensei collection. Which I kind of got minus one thing that I really, really wanted. Um, One of my favorite Shin Megami Tenseis at the time was a Shin Megami Tensei. That was Shin Megami Tensei If, which was a Shin Megami Tensei from Japan. We never got it, but I always wanted the limited edition, and the limited edition had a nice box with the game, but it also came with like I think it was like a satchel or whatever, like one of those high school satchels, I think. But I think
Huh.
it came with like or it looked like a satchel. I don't remember, but I do remember it came with a journal within it for one of the characters, and I always thought that was really cool. I always wanted this thing, but I could never find it for a decent price. It was always overpriced all the time. Um, and I never did get my hands on that. But I did get my hands on everything else that I wanted. You know, whether it was, Persona on the PSP, even though I didn't have a PSP, I was collecting anything SMT related. I was going insane at that time. I was collecting everything, even books I didn't read. Uh, that was 10 years ago. But I was also diving into importing at this time too. So I was getting into like, importing Japanese games, and I discovered NIS of America at that time. And everything that I'm into now kind of culminated, you know, in terms of Japan like 10 years ago. Now, where do I see my collection going now? I actually thought about this recently. I I've kind of, to be completely honest, I've kind of lost. I would say the want to continuously buy a lot of the newer games. I've kind of lost that want and need for. Like, I don't really want a lot of the newer stuff. And now I
Yeah.
notice that, like, if I do want something new, it has to look old. Is what I is what I noticed. Like that's why I've been buying all these new games, but they're made for the Genesis. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I just find that stuff more fun. Um, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody in the chat this, but the corner that had my Evercade collection in it. The chat. I mean, the viewers don't know this. I sold my Evercade collection.
I was
Um,
shocked when I heard that.
yeah. I sold the Evercade collection because a lot of the games that I enjoyed on Evercade, I found out were made recently for the Genesis. That's why I fell down that rabbit hole. I was like, "Oh man, well, I never had a lot of Genesis games, but I much prefer getting them on the Genesis than getting them for the Evercade." And one of the things that kind of bugged me about the Evercade, um, I still like the Evercade. I bought the Evercade because I thought it was kind of, I guess the word is future proof. I guess that's the word I'm looking for, but I'm not sure if that might be the wrong way of saying it. But
Mm.
I don't like the fact that the Evercade and the cartridges needs updates. I don't like that. Um, when I bought into the Evercade, I thought it was fresh out the box as is. It doesn't need updates. It doesn't need patches. It doesn't need this. But too much have I seen bad things happen with, patches, downloads, updates, this. I don't like that. I kind of want to go back to that old way of playing my games where if it's broken, it's broken. If it has bugs, it has bugs, whatever. Um so I got rid of the Evercade, and in the corner I created I I call it the nostalgia corner, where it's just 90s stuff there. So it has the Genesis stuff, all my PlayStation 1 stuff is there, all the NES stuff is there. And if I'm lucky, I did say I wanted to start putting some more NES stuff there because I see a lot of I see a lot of people making new games for the NES, so I want to kind of dive into that. But I even got like this little lamp mounted above the corner where if you turn it on, it kind of gives it a yellow hue. So it kind of
Ooh,
looks retro-ish. It just
that is a
it
beautiful touch.
it just gives it this. yellowish kind of tint where it just feels like you're in the 90s. Um,
Oh,
uh, I did buy a couple of posters that I haven't received yet that I'm gonna start putting along the ceiling, like how we used to do in the 90s. We'll put posters all over the place, but it's just gonna be a corner dedicated to the 90s and late 80s because that's the eras that I remember. I eventually want to get a CRT. Eventually. But I don't think that's going to happen because the prices for those things have been skyrocketing exponentially. And I don't see that happening. So I'll have to settle with what I have. But I think the yellow tint, bulb and all that stuff was a great touch. And, if you want to if you want to have a feeling of the 90s, it's all in that one corner there. Eventually, I want to get like one of those brown dressers too. And just shove it away in
well,
there.
that is it's funny. I told you about the house that fell through that kind of had like the dorm or
Yeah.
the sort of 20-year-old apartment type feel to it. So in that basement, they had a massive like 32-inch Panasonic high-end CRT TV.
Oh wow,
And I was like, "Oh man, you will never find a TV like this." And
man.
I think it might have been one of those like at the very end of CRT production that could also do HD.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember those, but the thing was like 200 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah, I
I was
remember
like,
those.
I said to them, listen, do they really want to move this? Like, they could just leave it here. And they were, oh, yeah, we'll think about it. But of course, it fell through. So not only
Right.
did I lose my man bunker, but I lost my shot at getting a CRT like that. I never had one that big.
Man. That's crazy.
Ah,
That
painful.
every time you turn that thing on, it'll probably make that noise where it's like
Oh,
boom.
yep. I love that. And then Apollyon asked kind of a related question. He says, "Where do you think the gaming and collecting and importing hobby will be 10 years from now?"
uh
So
this one's
kind of
what
light questions, just
this one's a bit like, I mean, I always say this. I'm not as optimistic when it comes to this stuff. I'm more of a Debbie Downer. But I remember I said this before. I see it kind of turning into the vein of like what coin collecting is, you know.
yeah.
Um like only the oldies are gonna like that stuff, because you have so many kids. Well, that's actually changing because now you have a bunch of kids getting into the old stuff now. So we'll see, but I don't know. I'm not very optimistic about that stuff. Um, but if if we're lucky, um, it becomes vinyl collecting instead.
Yes. Yes.
If we're lucky, like because even I never grew up with vinyl, and I have vinyl. So
Yeah, I and we talked about it on the show before, but I think the one thing that kind of sticks out in my mind where we're going to be in 10 years is that I think as these streaming corporations become greedier, I think as people assert more control over our entertainment and what we can watch, when we can watch, I actually think having a physical media collection, gaming and other stuff, will be something that's pretty valuable. The idea that you can sit down outside of the internet and just play this digital amusement product.
yeah,
I think there's gonna be value in that because if you just look at how insane it's becoming to find what you wanna watch, and then you pay these streaming fees, and I think if kinda gaming goes down that road, whether it's cloud gaming or just the end of physical media, I mean, once physical media goes away, like, you see it on the Sony store. Yeah, they'll throw in
yeah,
a couple sales, but everything is so expensive, and it can go away at any time. So just having it all in your home and playing it, and of course, I've said this before, I don't you if you're a Debbie Downer, I don't know what I am, but, like, if we have power disruptions and climate change and electricity is at a premium, if you have a generator and a Genesis, you might have some enjoyment in an otherwise kinda depressing time.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be depressing. I can definitely see it. I can see us moving into a future definitely where um people sell nostalgia
Yeah.
and and where it's like a hot commodity. Like people are like um when I recently sent you that video of, the guy explaining how Halo Master Chief Collection,
Yeah,
changed his
that was a
life or
good
whatever.
one.
And he did
Yeah.
that deep dive on like video stores and all this stuff. And I can kind of see us moving into a future where we get to a point where streaming services are absolute, but people don't like them anymore
Yeah.
and want to go back to the way things used to be. And you have this influx of people diving face first into nostalgia. Like they didn't grow up with DVDs, but you find them inside Salvation armies looking for DVDs. Or you find them looking for old Nintendo games that they only heard about but never actually seen.
Yeah.
I can I can definitely see a future of stuff like that. It's kind of hard to see now because we're face first and digital. But yeah, I can see that, man. I can definitely see that. And the people who have been collecting this stuff for years, they become the cool kids.
Yeah.
Or the
Eh,
cool old man or the cool old lady, that has
yeah.
this
I've
mountains
been
of
waiting to be
physical
the cool
media.
kid my whole life. This is my time. 55 years old, 60 years old, a guy
It's
with the
coming.
bunker filled with
It's
games. This is
coming.
going to be. I'm going to hit
Hey,
my stride.
let's go to old man Will's house. He has all of
Yeah.
the cool stuff. Yeah, I can definitely see that, man. Neighborhood kids come to your garage and you have all these arcades and all these TVs hooked up that they've never seen before. I can definitely see that, man, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so I think there is going to be a world where if you can eke out enjoyment that's not connected to the internet and is not under this kind of corporate surveillance, that will be valued. So let's hope Old Man Will and Old Man Jay, the coolest guys on the
Yeah,
block.
yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm halfway there. I'm halfway there.
Nice, nice. Well, I think this was a good 10th episode. This was covered a lot of ground. And I think it's kind of a good start to the new year. People can start buying all of this stuff because again, when Jay tells you to buy something, you buy it. And I'll tell you the one thing that has changed in my collection since we started doing this podcast
What
is
is it?
I've been buying a lot more because of all the stuff you're introducing to me.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and we've always said this, if we ever develop this podcast to the point where people might be interested in a Patreon, I think like a late night shopping session with us is very eye opening.
Yeah, that would be I think my wife has told me this before. She says I'm a bad influence when it comes to my friends because when my friends come over and they see the stuff that they've never seen before, they want to go out and buy it immediately. Like they're like, man, why didn't you call me? I have a friend that literally says, whenever something new comes out, call me. Okay,
Yeah.
just tell me that it's here and I can buy it. And because a
Yes.
lot a lot of the times I'll have something, he'll see me playing it when he comes by. And he's like, "Oh, I got to play this." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's on this website." He'll check the website. It's either sold out or it's overpriced,
Yeah.
because you can't get it anymore.
Well, and before we started doing this, I mean, I was kind of like your just run of the mill importer. Like I'd look on eBay, I'd look on
Mm.
PlayAsia, I'd look on that other thing that was like PlayAsia but more expensive and less reliable.
Yep.
Forget what it was called. It had like a green website. But then you showed me the ways of importing.
Oh, I
You
showed
know,
you all the
you
tricks of the trade.
you showed me the tricks of the trade, and then I was like, "Wait a minute, I'm getting more games for less money." And then
Yes.
I absolutely went crazy. I
Yeah.
just
But then
yeah.
now the stores started catching on.
Yeah,
And now they've
yeah,
changed some of their prices, so now we have to do any I have to do more digging and I have to find more loopholes.
yeah, but, so if we ever develop that kind of an audience where we can do that, I think a late night shopping session on Discord would be absolutely awesome.
I'm so down for that. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. But in any event, we will be back in, we'll say, a month's time.
Yeah, a month.
March. Yeah, and we will move on to the next 10 episodes.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day for anyone out there, by the way,
Oh
listening.
yeah, Valentine's Day. Yeah, that's it's cutting into my importing budget. But well worth it, but well worth it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we will be back in March.